Welcome to ReReview, where we watch movies from our past with a perspective from today. Your hosts are Matt, Bobby, and Austin, and we love the films from our youth, so we're taking a look back to see if they still hold up. On this episode, we're discussing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was released in 1990 and directed by Steve Barron. It stars Judith Hoag, Elias, Koteas, and Josh Pais. This is our introduction to our heroes in a half shell. Now, this is a fair warning. We're spoiling a 33-year-old movie, so if you haven't seen it, we will be revealing key plot points. I think before we even get into the film, I'll start with, these cartoons meant a lot to me. So when a live-action version of Turtles was coming out, this was such a huge deal, and I remember me and my cousin and the excitement we had for seeing a Ninja Turtle movies was absolutely through the friggin' roof. And I could probably tell you, I probably watched it several times as a kid, and I don't know that I've seen it since then. This is my first watch in a very, very, very long time. Mm-hmm. Thinking of that way back machine, Bobby, what was your inclination back when you were a kid and wanting to see this movie?
Oh yeah, I loved this movie when I was a kid. Absolutely loved it. And I had that history of loving the TV show myself too. In fact, I can sing the theme song right now, but I won't subject you to that torture right now.
I don't understand how you say that out loud and we don't demand it immediately from you. Okay, we're going to have to record it separately and it'll be like a side thing for the people who pay us money for this podcast. Do we have that yet? No?
They're going to have to pay a lot. I'm not going to submit you to that torture, but no, I love the TV show. I love the movie, and I think I watched it a whole bunch of times when I was a kid. I think I stayed the summer at my grandma's house, and my grandma was like, "Hey, what do you want to do today?" I'm like, "Let's go watch the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie." And she's like, "Yeah, all right." Next day, "Hey, what do you want to do today? Let's go watch the Mutant Ninja Turtles." She's like, "Yeah, all right." My poor grandma was totally tortured, but I loved every minute of it.
Your grandma sounds amazing. That's fantastic that she was able to be like, I'll take my grandkid to this over and over and over again.
Yeah, it was amazing. I loved it.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I watched this as a kid. I think I was in Germany at the time, so we usually got stuff a little bit later than what came out in the US. So like I think I got the movie and the TV show around the same time. Mm-hmm. I think I definitely watched it there. But the thing I think that I gravitate the most memory wise is owning it on VHS and wearing it out. Cause like I distinctly remember the VHS. It was like a black VHS. It was a cardboard cover. So you slid it out from the bottom.
And I think I had the same thing too.
It was all black with big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles font on it with it was black font with green glow. And it had the Ninja Turtles on the front. And like, I just wore this was back in the day, whenever they'd have a movie like this, they would put Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, Transformers, the movie back then. And so I remember like the edges of that carton were like worn out. I watched it so much. And then the first thing I ever really drew was Ninja Turtles as a kid. Like,
same, yeah.
If you went into like my grandparents' like house or whatever, there were Ninja Turtle drawings all over the place.
They were relatively easy to draw because they were just kind of like the dome head and the mask, and then like the simple shapes for the mouth and the nose, and they were all the same. So yeah, they were really fun to draw.
It wouldn't be hard. I mean, if I said draw Ninja Turtle, I think even if you've never drawn a Ninja Turtle before, as long as you've seen it in some form, you could probably draw it pretty well from memory. And most people would be like, yeah, it's a Ninja Turtle.
It's one of these things where, as hearing both of you talk about it's probably akin to, the kids who are at the right time for Pokemon to be their thing, or I don't know. I have no idea what the kids are doing today. It was so infectious, I'll say, to the point where we have a theme that goes throughout this movie, and we knew that the turtles like pizza, right? But I'd swear to you, I felt like I forced my family to single-handedly lift up Little Caesars because we ordered pizza all the time, and I knew half the time it was like, because I want to eat like the turtles do. Probably not healthy, but it was definitely a thing that I wanted to do. We get into the film, and because I didn't remember, I was thinking, we'd see their origin story first, but we get to meet them, pretty early on here and see them in action. That introduction, did you like the way that they take the turtles and kind of present them to you to begin with?
It was very, I mean, it's one of the things that I think a lot of people forget about, and even us talking about it is we're talking about the movie and the cartoon, but the comic book came first.
Mhm.
These were superhero characters, no different than Batman, Daredevil, any of those comic book characters. So it very much was a Batman-esque type intro, right? You get crime committed, which obviously begins kind of with the opening monologue, right, from April O'Neil. Then you get this random crime spree because for some odd reason ninjas need to steal TVs, I guess. And then you get the introduction to the turtles themselves in what's the term whenever it's like blacked out. So like for a solid 10 seconds it was just a black screen for us, but you hear all the sound effects in the background.
Right.
So you see them, but you still don't really see them until you actually get to the sewer. Really, you see part of Raphael, but you still don't really see the turtles yet. So it very much was kind of that comic book type, introduction to the characters.
It's kind of like the whole Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man thing where it's a very like New York story. Like Spider-Man wouldn't really work like anywhere but New York City where he can swing from a high building, and maybe Ninja Turtles wouldn't really work so well in a place that didn't have like an underground layer of subways and sewers and stuff.
Sure seems like it smells.
Well, I mean, according to this movie, they didn't really need to use the sewers to get around. They could have just walked around in trench coats.
Right. Yeah, let's talk about that. Well, a couple of things I think we could get into there. So first, let's give kudos because I don't know. For 1990, and at the end I said I don't know that I fully realized that this is all Jim Henson, and I honestly think the costumes look great. I think everything looked really, really good, especially when we look at what the stunt people were doing, working in those costumes and the actions they were taking. It was very impressive.
It definitely, it was like, it's weird because like I thought it was going to bother me more than it did. Because I mean, you very much could see the seams and everything. You could see the occasional piece of skin poke through, like the connection between the neck and the head, and the eye slits, and the freaky open your mouth and there's another mouth in there moments or whatever. Like these things that occur. Like I thought it was going to take me out of it, and to be honest, like I was all in. Like even though it could have been better, like comparatively speaking, because I mean obviously this. You have, things like, Labyrinth and, this wealth of, history for Jim Henson. Like it never took me out of it. It never bothered me that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I was willing to give it some space too. And I liked how the movie actually did it also. Like there was some really funny moments where there was the two guys in the cab when the like turtle walked by and they're like, what was that? And he's like, oh, it looked like a giant turtle in a trench coat. Like it was kind of like the funny cliche how like the New Yorkers are just so into doing their own thing that they don't care like whatever happens, whether there's a giant rat walking by or like a giant turtle eating pizza. Like it doesn't matter in New York, like because just weird things happen there anyway.
I mean, he hit Raphael at that point. That's what made it even better. And I think that was, he was coming out of the movie theater, and I was just like, I don't understand this world where people are not noticing this giant turtle in a trench coat. But it was, it's like, perfect that they didn't.
It's like Coneheads, right? They're from France,
Yes,
and that's all you need to know, right? Like.
We go through, we met April, we meet the children, we see Raphael, we get the attitude, we see what's happening there because he had to leave because he, has got to be the angsty, angry one of the group. And, he stops someone from stealing a purse and gets the purse back and gets into a battle. And then we meet Casey Jones. How did y'all feel about Casey? I'll say in the way back, because I'll tell you, like, I was so focused on the turtles. I was like, why is there so much like time spent on Casey Jones?
No, I liked Casey Jones when I was a kid. I thought he was cool. He kind of reminded me of like, I don't know, like a low rank kind of Batman type. Like he's like this masked vigilante type. Clearly like he's like Batman before he gets his suit.
It's funny because before we watched this, I thought that he would be what's the modern term to use for him? Problematic, I guess.
Oh,
like,
yeah, right.
Like I kind of felt like he was going to be. There was going to be some stuff said in the movie that I'd be like, oh, that probably wouldn't fly in. But I don't feel like it ever. I think the note that I wrote down is that Casey Jones is kind of fun. He's enjoyable enough, and he gets to that edge of kind of being too much a little bit sometimes. Like he kind of gets into that. I don't know. I imagine he's from Jersey. Like, I don't know if they actually acknowledge it, but it kind of feels like he probably was.
He had to be the love story guy too, didn't he?
Yeah, they didn't want to do the Howard the Duck again, right? They didn't want to get too far into the animal.
The turtles were very interested in April.
And I was happy that they weren't all jealous at the end. I was happy that they're like, yeah, go Casey.
Even though they were very, very fond of April.
They're not like, wait, who's this guy coming in all of a sudden? What's going on here? We had this.
I will do the sports throwback. What's up with the Jose Canseco hate?
Mark McGuire reference cost too much.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, we go through and we understand that there's the big bad Foot Clan, and they're doing a lot of thieving of stuff that I guess a criminal conglomerate wants, just like merchandise.
They didn't ever really touch on that, really. Like what the master plan was behind. Like I assume it's what was funding everything, but like they didn't really like show that. Even if it was like just a little small clip of them pawning off all the shit or something,
right?
Just to make some money to finance everything.
I was picturing them like having some kind of like eBay kind of system. Like, okay, like here, how are we? Let's sell this thing that like it's just logistically weird to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But as like an evil conglomerate, if you're the leader, said evil empires, your goal just to like recruit the kids and give them a place to hang out and smoke cigarettes and skate their skateboards while somehow maybe training them to turn into foot soldiers.
It was like the Joker. Like he just wanted to breed chaos, right? He just wanted to like make everybody unhappy in New York.
But really the next step for all those kids was to eventually become foot soldiers, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it had to lead somewhere. I feel like that's one thing that they didn't really touch on that I think a modern version of this probably would, is that all this had some master plan to, I don't know, destabilize New York. Because like if I think about this in terms of, and I don't know why, but I was very much thinking of the Netflix Daredevil show as I was watching this, because they do have like the hand and everything else, like Bobby mentioned before.
There are a lot of similarities.
I think that I could very much see that they were using this as a way to increase crime, corrupt the youth, right? Like slowly corrupt all the youth in the process. Just a way to basically, throw New York into chaos so that they could, shadow government, New York essentially. But they didn't really touch on that. And part of me is glad they didn't, because I feel like that might have been a little bit too deep for this movie.
Yeah.
Like I think it might have messed up the pacing of it, because it very much was just very go with the flow. I mean, the fact that we didn't even, Shredder isn't introduced until 30 minutes into this or something like that. Like you don't,
and again, they don't meet face to face until
like the very
there's
end.
only 15 minutes left in the movie.
Very much so. So, I mean, I think that probably would have bogged down the movie a little bit too much and the deeper meaning of the whole thing. So,
and does that come from a focus like they knew they were trying to make this for kids?
Probably. I don't know. Maybe it's self-awareness. I mean, just like the whole hit Raphael with the car and make a comment about it. Maybe it was trying to get ahead of the controversy that I think Ninja Turtles had during that time period anyways from the cartoon, which was the idea of, kids seeing violent actions and emulating them. I mean, I played Ninja Turtles as a kid. I had all the toys. I had the mask. I wore it. I had, the plastic katanas and all that. So, I can't say that it didn't make me want to go do cartwheels and front flips and stuff and fight my friends with plastic weapons. So maybe they're just getting ahead of it, very much saying, okay, well, this is being a good ninja. This is being a bad ninja. You don't want to be a bad ninja.
I mean, I guess I have to ask now, did you have a favorite Ninja Turtles toy? And I'm only asking because you made me think of mine, which was I had a Detective Donatello in his trench coat.
For me, it was the transforming turtle. So you opened up the chest and it converted from a Ninja Turtle to a classic turtle.
Oh,
so like you'd move the legs around, and so like it was kind of freaky when you look at it because the proportions were kind of weird,
fancy.
But it was a transforming turtle, and like I would transform that thing all the time. I can't remember which one it was now,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my favorite was always Raphael, but I don't know if I had that because sometimes like Power Rangers, there'd be more Red Ranger stuff than you'd get like Blue Ranger stuff.
Right.
So you didn't always get your favorite when it came to merchandising.
Sure.
Bobby, you have a toy?
I'm pretty sure I had some of the vehicles. Like I think I had the news van, and for some reason I feel like I have in my memory that I had a blimp.
Oh my God. If you had the blimp, I would have been the most jealous. That was the toy that I always wanted as a kid. And because I was in Germany. So like we got stuff a little bit later than everyone else. And it was like the blimp and like the G.I. Joe jet and like little like boat thing or whatever that they had back then. It was like, that was the go-to. Cause like it was actually an inflatable like vinyl balloon.
Yeah, I had the blimp. I don't even remember like a blimp in the show. I just remember very vague memories of owning a blimp. I don't know why.
So this is going to be, I don't want you to take this personally, but this is inner Matt from when he was a little kid. Like, fuck you, buddy. It's not jealousy. It's not jealousy.
Okay, we'll move on from the toys. Let's get back to the movie. Damn you, Bobby. We'll talk about the characters and kind of, I mean, the thing that I like, there's a lot of beats and there's a lot of gags, right? There's just tons of gags that happen throughout the entire thing. As they're fighting, the comments they're making, kind of just toying with, just everything that they're doing in a way that was, I don't know, it felt just right for how to present, action for a kid's film. Like nothing felt too over the top, but it was a lot of fun, and it played to me into, they really try to play into each of the characters, each of the turtles in their own way, while they still kind of work together as a cohesive unit to do all their fighting.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was one of my notes I wrote down was that they made sure to keep all the personalities fairly distinct from each other. They made sure to play into the family aspect of the characters. You very much got the fact that it was between the four turtles being brothers and Splinter being a father figure. Like it never, like it always worked well in that sense. Like you got like the inner squabbles between, Leonardo and Raphael or whatever. You got, Splinter very much talking to Raphael to be like, hey, you are a little bit different than your brothers in the way that you see and do things. And that's fine. And so I think they did a good job playing into that. And I think that also translated into how action scenes played out. How I don't think that there was ever a time in any of the battles, because to me, there's the three main battles. There was the initial fight. There was the fight in April's apartment. And then there was the one in the sewer that was towards the main thing. And all the fights, even the fight with Shredder at the end, felt fun. It was never too serious, even when it was serious.
Sure.
I did like the shell crashing, and then they tied it into cymbals crashing, and then they did more shell crashing. Was there a gag that stuck out to you? One of those moments?
I really liked how the turtle like sucked his head into a shell.
No, yeah, that was a good one.
And then he goes, "I love being a turtle," because I pictured like the production of it. Like, I wonder if they had like a stand-in like puppet for that one. Like where they could have puppets do various other things. Cause I picture like logistically, like them having like multiple different turtles that can do like different things, like lighter turtles that can jump and like stunt turtles that can do various other things. And so I kind of liked the artistry of that kind of stuff. And I thought like that turtle stuff was fun.
I think we also, I felt like I need to ask this because I heard a word that I have not heard in forever. And I'm wondering if you used any of the vernacular that they used. In particular, for me, what stood out was radical. And I felt like I said rad and radical all the time. And I do not remember the last time I said that's rad, but it still makes perfect sense. But they said spaz. Awesome bossa nova. We heard a bitchin', which I definitely think as a kid, there was the words. I was like, I can't believe they said that in a movie. I think we heard talacious, a totally tubular, and of course the epic cowabunga. Did you use any of these as a kid?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know if it would have been like, did I use these naturally? Like they were just part of my vocabulary at the time? Probably not. I think that it would have probably just been a reference to movies like this. Just like in no situation would I have ever used the phrase "hasta la vista, baby" before T2.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that applies to some of this too. I think that this plus the cartoon show very much, like, I think probably taught me some of those things, but and it sounds terrible. I feel like if I would have used it in a school environment that wasn't around people also playing Ninja Turtles, I probably would have got beat up. So
I think
that's when he yelled "Ninja Vanish."
We could make Cowabunga come back.
It would be amazing if the world started saying Cowabunga again. It would be a better world if we did that. My thing is always, would pizza be as big? Would it have been a diminished market if Ninja Turtles didn't exist?
Probably help Domino's after this for like a little bit, because I'm sure because I remember going back to VHS, they had a promotion with Pizza Hut at the time. You could get like a free pizza, and I remember at one point one of them had like a turtle shaped pizza. So like we brought it up, like they probably got so much money from all the product placement. Like no wonder Michael Bay got into doing these movies later on. It's like, yo, they beat me to the punch back in the 90s on all this product placement.
I mean, we're clearly tapping into all the nostalgia that this particular film was giving us. If we look at the movie, how'd you feel about April O'Neil? How'd you feel about the people playing the characters? We know we like Casey.
So watching this movie just reminded me again that it's a superhero movie, because I feel like the main female lead is almost always a reporter of some kind. It's almost like either it's because of the archetype created by Superman back in like, the early days of comic books. And so that just became the go-to, the Vicky Vales and all that,
It's also like convenience where they need to be like located near a crime kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like it very much was there for that purpose of driving some of the story, because some of the story did drive from her connection to everything. I think that I enjoyed this version of April more than I enjoyed the remake with Michael Bay or whatever. I felt more like she actually was a reporter. She had kind of had that tenacity of a reporter, especially from the time period, that I could kind of see. It definitely is like this heyday of like the concept of an investigative reporter. I don't know if you'd ever really see that nowadays. It'd probably be like someone on Vice on YouTube or something like that would be doing what she was doing. Sure. I don't think Channel 5 would probably be at that level of commitment for a reporter, to be doing, but I think she was fine. I think that they did stuff with her character. I think that they definitely kind of like Casey Jones, like whatever character development could have been there wasn't necessarily present for the human characters as much as the Turtles, which it's their movie. So I understand.
Yeah. I mean, Bobby, you meet the Turtles for the first time. Do you maybe you freak out, but are you quickly accepting them into your world and not telling anyone else because you're an investigative reporter? I was like waiting for the story to come out. I met walking, talking turtles. And she's like, no, we're actually going to be friends.
Right. I mean, like I do like the way they did that. I mean, basically, like you kind of had to have the freak out moment, but I liked how it wasn't, maybe to mention another movie we just watched, like a Temple of Doom type of thing. It could have gone that way where she's just screaming the entire time about everything that moves. But I like how she kind of like, became friends with them very quickly. And I feel like that's the way I would want to be, because I mean, they're really non-threatening. They're like, hey, let's get some pizza. Let's have fun. Let's check this out, and so they seem to be oblivious to the whole fact that everything's really crazy. And they're like, hey, don't worry. We're just turtles here having fun. And so
that could also fight.
Right.
One of the things that I did like, and I'm sure it's because it looked even more VHS-y, something about the memory moments, the initial, like the turtles getting in the ooze. And then when we also get the flashback to Shredder killing Master Yoshi, it was like really diminished in quality, but like ethereal.
Yeah, the look of them was kind of like, to me, it like mimicked the like super old like Japanese or Chinese movies that were maybe shot or like duped in 8mm or like 16mm or something. It totally looked like a 8mm kind of situation where it's like a quarter of the quality and there's just so much more film grain that it's almost like out of focus looking. But for sure, it like had a very like flashbacky type look without doing like, you know, the whole like TV like waves or whatever, the Wayne's World thing.
It could have been that though. I guess that would have worked for me as well. But I really, really like the way they did it. I also enjoyed the April O'Neil's art transition to the Turtles. Like that was always something that I loved watching. Matt, because I think there was a very distinct reaction you had. Tell us how you felt about Raphael in the bathtub.
That caught me off guard. That caught me off guard so much. Like, because like it was almost, I hope it was intentional, to be honest, the setup for it, because it very much like, it was a very somber moment. It's like, how's Raph? It's like, oh, Leo's not leaving his side, right? Like, because that was like the transition moment, right? Like you had a sketch of Leonardo, like he hasn't left his side the entire time, like a very somber setup. And then it cuts to him halfway in a tub, like on his side, sticking out.
He totally looked dead though.
He looked so dead. It was not great. And she comes in and starts pouring water over him, and it's just like, well, all right. It makes sense.
The only way it could be worse is they would have cut, you know, from Leonardo, and literally like it would just had like his head in like a toilet or something like that, just getting hydrated with the water. We had like a good like 3-minute laugh just from
yes.
I hope it was 100% intentional to be hilarious, because it freaking was.
I don't know that I laughed at it as much as a kid, or that I even thought of it from a laughing standpoint. I think the other thing that I picked up on was the when Casey's rescuing Splinter, and just the pause and like the back and forth. You see like his mind working of, wait a second, this is a gigantic rat.
And then just accepting it. He's like, all right. It plays into the fact that I think that all of them kind of came to terms with it pretty quickly, but his reaction, I think I actually wrote down like, you know, again, Casey Jones is a fun character, and it's a Casey Jones reaction. That's no matter what level of movie I'm watching, I feel like when an actor understands their character,
right,
to the point where they can include head motion, shrugs, like those things that I doubt that was in the script. I would love to read the script just to see, but I doubt that moment was in the script. It was such a Casey Jones moment that I was like, you know, great to Elias. He did an amazing job, you know, becoming that character. Like that was a Casey Jones moment through and through.
Yeah, he had really great reactions with his eyes, like you said. And like I think he's a really good actor, and I think this movie got really lucky to have him, because I think like had he have been like, you know, more established, he might not have wanted to do a movie like this. So it really helped out that they got a really good actor who seemed to be like kind of on the upswing of their career, basically.
I'm not going to lie. It did kind of throw me off for a little bit looking at him, because I'm used to Elias with the bald spot or whatever. Because I mean, we watched Fallen, and
was it a wig?
Oh, probably. There's no way. That's too much luxurious hair for one man to. Only Fabio had that much hair back then.
He was much younger. Come on, y'all.
He might have been, but I don't know.
Give him a chance.
Hey,
well, we'll get into one of the.
I totally get it.
One other thing that Casey did in a moment. Shredder's costume, yay or nay?
It was fabulous. I can give it that. It was that was a sparkly outfit if I've ever seen one, and that cape was next level. It's funny because it's very, I think I made a comment that it was very Michael Jackson-y. The way that it was designed, it very much was a jumpsuit. I think it stood out the most to me when he was walking towards Splinter, when he was trying to interrogate him or whatever.
Yeah.
But when he's standing on the roof, he looks so fucking badass. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was really into it, especially with the music, and that whole scene was just shot beautifully. And like his helmet is top notch. I'm sorry, that is an amazing. I love helmets.
Yeah, the helmet definitely.
That helmet was amazing.
I like how they tried to match the comics and the stuff that was there before. Like I could totally see like some producer nowadays saying, "Oh, we can't do that. That's not," and like completely changing it just for the sake of changing it. And I kind of like that they
kept it the same.
Yeah, basically.
Or tied it as much as they can. Yeah, I mean, so if we look at that final battle, having Splinter kind of come in at the end, he does his own little disappearing act and has his little battle off. We get Shredder taking off his mask to see the damage that the rat had done to him, and he's going to undo this. He
remembers the rat.
Yeah, and we get the other Casey moment. Shredder falls into a dump truck.
I was kind of surprised. Like I thought they were gonna have the cliche, like, you know, like Splinter tries to help him up or whatever, and then he falls. But no, like Splinter was just like, yeah, time for you to die now.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I wrote down was like, you know, it's interesting because I think that in any other movie, I think you would have had the Turtles kind of be the ones to defeat Shredder.
Mm-hmm.
But they, you know, very much, you know, let Splinter have his moment, his, you know, his revenge. But it still wasn't, he didn't let go because he was going to let go. He had to let go because the knife was thrown. So there was at least the concept that, you know, he, you know, didn't necessarily wasn't doing it in cold blood, but his setup with the whole, like, you're going to die without honor definitely meant that he wasn't heartbroken about it either. It was very much like the Batman Begins, like, you know, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you type moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yes, the, again, brilliantly done Casey Jones moment of oops was just so well done. And yes, and granted, we didn't have the sequel yet, so we didn't know it, but for all we knew at the time, just murdered this dude. I think this is,
yes, he did.
I always had an irrational fear of ending up in a dump truck and getting squashed. And it's probably because of this movie as a kid.
It definitely is because of this movie. I mean, I think we'll save this for later. We'll just do a quick yay or nay. Bobby, practical effects in Jim Henson puppetry?
Yay.
Yay or nay?
Yay.
Matt?
Yay.
I definitely think that if compared to what we got later on with the CGI, I think I'd much rather have.
We'll get into the other movies. I was just looking for the yay and nay. I have a feeling we're going to do a lot of callbacks to what we saw here.
Yeah, I would much rather see a 2020s version of practical costumes over what inevitably they would probably do in modern movies.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's time to ask the question of questions. Bobby, you're recommending Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes, watch it. It's amazing. You're going to love it if you're a Jim Henson fan, or if you just like cowabunga, radical type stuff.
What if you like turtles?
Yeah.
I like turtles.
If you like rats.
Maddie, you tell people
if you like hockey,
Ninja Turtles.
If you like industrial sized cheese graters that are also ninjas. Yeah, I think that the one good thing about Ninja Turtles is it's actually, held up, the test of time. It's, I think that there are kids now that know Ninja Turtles just as much. And I think they can watch this movie and enjoy it just as much as us who grew up with it. Yeah, there's some dated aspects of it.
The music,
but it was good. I actually enjoyed some of it. I think that like a lot of it really played really well into it. It wasn't as bad as it probably could have been. I think that, if you've seen the movie, it's worth watching again. I was worried going into this, to be honest, that I was going to sit here and be like, oh, it's dragging. All the puns are too bad. The acting's so stiff, or the costumes are so distracting, but I enjoyed it. I think that it was a fun movie. I think that it's something that you can watch with children. Don't worry. If you're a good parent, they're not going to stab each other's eyes out with plastic swords. Just enjoy the movie, have fun, and maybe be a bit more selective about follow-up Ninja Turtle movies after this.
The sheer idea that the kids would commit violence as a result. I mean, that was a fun thing. You'd watch these types of movies and go out and play turtles with your friends and try to kick each other. Hopefully not too hard. I definitely was apprehensive coming into this because it has been such a long time. I figured a movie made for kids, understanding they can hurt at times, especially with the aging of it. And I think I've left very, very surprised. This is not only one for the popcorn. You don't even need the popcorn. You can watch it with your kids, or even if it's a nostalgia trip, you can watch it on your own. To me, it still holds up very well and is very, very entertaining. With that said, as always, thank you for listening. And remember, some say the path from inner turmoil begins with a friendly ear.